Hi guys, so I've been to a tournament recently, Patrolling Ithilien at Wargames Workshop in Milton Keynes. I'm not sure if this is going to be sort of a regular thing or not, but I thought I'd just do a quick sort of review and breakdown of sort of how the tournament went for me, and just sort of see if something that interests you guys, and if it does, I might do some more in the future. But yeah, here we go.
So this was a 400-point tournament hosted at the Wargames Workshop in Milton Keynes, which is a really great, friendly local gaming store, and it's hosted by the Milton Keynes Outriders, which is the local gaming group. I try to make it to these when I can, just because they're always a great tournament. So for my list, I took the Ugluk Scouts Legendary Legion. The list was Ugluk with 5 Uruk Marauders with shield, 4 with bow, Malhir with 4 Marauders with shield, 4 with bow, Grishnak with shield, and he's leading 10 orcs with spear, 7 of which also have shields, so that's 30 models at 400 points. I've not used them before at a tournament, and I've only used them for one friendly game and I got absolutely stomped, so I was a bit of a noob using the list. So for my first opponent, I drew quite an interesting list, which is 2 Great Beasts of Gorgoroth and Shelob. So I didn't fully know what to make of how I was going to deal with that. So the tournament used the veto system. So we got the 3 scenarios from pool 1, which is the Maelstrom ones. I believe I vetoed hold ground first, because the idea of 2 beasts just sat in the middle with I think it's 18 models next to the central objective made me sad. And then I think he vetoed command the battlefield, because obviously controlling 4 corners with 3 models is difficult. So he ended up playing heirlooms. So I won priority the first turn, which I wasn't super pleased about. But I basically spread my 3 warbands out, trying to pick up 3 of the 6 objectives quickly. And if I got it, great. If I didn't, then that sort of narrowed down where I needed to go, and I could hopefully quite quickly close down the final few objectives. I was quite happy that the Great Beasts didn't come on behind me and trample me turn 1, because my deployment wasn't amazing for Ugluk's warband in particular, and I was sort of fairly vulnerable to being stomped, I think. But luckily it didn't go down that way, so that was good. So I got onto the 3 objectives. None of them were the heirloom, which is a bit annoying, because otherwise I could have just hidden on the opposite side of the board to all the scary things, and hopefully that would have been okay. So there was a Great Beast next to Malhir's warband, so their job was pretty much to murder it with Malhir's Fight 5. Hopefully the Uruks would sort of get in and cause enough damage, and all the orcs would die from fall damage, so that was the plan. The long story short is it didn't quite end up that way, because my Uruks were sort of reluctant to charge in, which was a bit upsetting, and I got it down to 1 wound, and I just didn't quite get what I needed to kill it, so in the end Malhir got stomped. But one of the Uruks was able to pick up the objective on that side of the board, which turned out to be the heirloom, and then sort of ran towards my main army, which was Ugluk and Grishnak's warbands. So on the other side of the table, Ugluk and Grishnak's warbands were sort of closing in on the other Great Beast, and he was just sort of sauntering towards us, and I was able to sort of use the ruins to my advantage a little bit, because Grishnak's warband was able to hide within charge range, but so the Great Beast couldn't stomp them basically. And it meant I had a turn where they basically just all emerged and pinned it down, and then Ugluk's guys sort of closed in, and then I think a couple of heroic move roll-offs went my way, and then obviously I had the Fight 5, and I also had Strike if I needed it with Grishnak. So in the end I was able just to kill the beast and its crew. So that was quite handy. So all I needed to do was kill 1 more model to break at that point. So this whole time Shelob had sort of been sitting at the back, and she sort of picked up an objective, but by the time she got close to me I was able just to send in a single orc to pin her down a couple of times. So I think that's Shelob's great weakness really, is that if you can charge her with something, she only has 1 attack. So actually if you can just repeatedly do that and she has no might, whereas I did, then I could just sort of use that might if I lost priority just to keep pinning her down. But eventually she sort of scuppered off towards the middle, towards my objective holder that was trying to make his way from all my dead Uruks and Mauhir's warband to all my friends on the other side of the board. And in the end, I was able to sort of get the objective sort of hidden in all my remaining warriors and sort of keep Shelob out of the way. But the other great beast sort of dealt with all my dudes over there, so it was sort of coming back towards me. And this whole time, I forgot to mention actually, the shooting from it was grim because I think I lost like over 10 models to just shooting from Orc Bowman, which is a bit surprising. But so the beast sort of came over towards Shelob, and I think Shelob managed to win a combat at that point, and but failed to sort of web Ugluk, which was quite handy. But then by that point I'd just broken, so the game ends at 25%. So I basically then just kind of took courage tests with all my warriors to begin with, hoped that enough of them ran away for me to be quartered, and then use Ugluk or Grishnak to pass their courage test and then sort of stand fast the warrior who had it. And the short version is that worked out. So in the end I was able to win that one. But it wasn't a huge win. I think I made that 8-2 to me. But yeah, a few different dice, and that could have quite easily been my guys all squished, especially if they'd come on behind me with the Maelstrom deployment. But so that was round one, went quite well. So second game, I drew Rangers of Mirkwood with Legolas, Tariel, and then however many Mirkwood Rangers completes 400 points. We were given pool 5, and he began by vetoing Recon because I imagine, Urukai marching 11 inches a turn is a bit scary. I vetoed Storm the Camp because what I was worried about is them sort of sitting in the camp and just shooting me as I tried to get near it. So he chose a Divide and Conquer. So basically I deployed Ugluk in one corner and then Mauhir and Grishnak in the other corner, and all I did was I double marched Mauhir's lot towards Tariel's corner because they were sort of sitting back and shooting, and I sort of then slowly moved Ugluk in as well, and basically I just wanted all of my force fighting half of their force, which I was able to do, and it helped that his shooting was absolutely atrocious, to be honest. I think my Uruk Bows did just as well, and obviously that's saying something when you're sort of shooting on par with elves. But yes, obviously I lost a few guys, and to sort of get around the knife fighter rule, I ended up sort of charging in single Uruks or something, and then just sort of spear supporting and hoping that would sort of swing it and sort of avoid powering them up. And then I dealt with Tariel, and I think basically I won a strike off and she was trapped, and that was that really. But what I was worried about was Legolas's lot moving in from the other side of the board to sort of get between me and the objectives, because I was quite out of position in doing this. So it kind of meant half his force was dead, but also I wasn't really close to the objective. But fortunately, they sort of sat back and shot, and sort of mixed results. Sometimes it was like nothing died, and then in other turns a few things died. But ultimately, I was able to break them, and the game ended before they could sort of get too many guys near the objective, and I sort of did my best to sort of keep the fighting away from it. So in the end, that one was an 8-1 win for me. So going into lunch, I was the third or fourth, I think. So obviously 2 wins, but relatively good VPs. But I think other people had done better. So on to game 3, and I drew Hobbits, led by Ed Quick, who I've played before and had a good game last time. So I knew this one would be fun as well. But he had the Hobbit Legendary Legion and 50 models, which is a bit scary. But fortunately, we were on pool 4, so he obviously vetoed Contest of Champions because he didn't fancy Merry squaring up to Ugluk. I vetoed to the death because I didn't fancy being shot from the other side of the board. So he went with Lords of Battle, but Ed was quite cunning with his army composition and and deployments. So it meant that I had to deploy most of my army before he deployed anything, and he set his guys up to sort of try and funnel me in to bring his numbers to bear and get lots of shooting in. I did sort of think about whether I just go in, except I'm going to get shot, but then just go in and smash. But in the end, I was able to sort of march and use my movement to get around a house that was sort of anchoring one side of his force, and just sort of come in the back and deal with one warband at a time. And there's not really too much to say, to be honest. Just my dice are pretty good as well, which didn't help. But basically, Uruks and Orcs just squished a lot of Hobbits, and I think that one finished 12-0. But obviously, as always, I had a fun game against Ed. So I went into game 4 on the top table. So I think the winner of this one basically won the tournament. So the pressure was on, and I was against Goblin Town with 61 models, led by Grinner with 2 captains and a scribe, and then just obviously a whole load of goblins. I was really hoping we didn't get an objective-based scenario. So obviously then we went on to pool 3, which is the objective-based scenarios. I vetoed destroy the supplies because there was no way I was going to be able to defend 3 objectives and attack 3 objectives, outnumbered 2-1. And he vetoed seize the prize because obviously I could march onto it almost immediately, and then I'd have the prize pretty much turn 2. So we played retrieval, which is the one we deploy diagonally, and it's really irritating to try and measure out. So my game plan here was to basically just close up around my objective and hope to kill enough goblins to break him whilst staying unbroken myself and making sure my objective didn't move. So basically just trying to squeak the win, because I don't think there's any way I was going to reach his objective with just a wall of goblins in the way and then the scribe potentially bringing on reinforcements as well. But I didn't deploy right around my objective. I deployed a little way back from the centre line, but kind of with my guys quite spread out, although my archers near the front. Basically, all I did for the first few turns was slowly move everyone back and sort of move back my archers as needed, but spending the whole time shooting. I did send a single sort of Uruk marauder sort of to the left and right flank to basically just sort of threaten sneaking sort of 1 or 2 guys through to the objective, but that was sort of more to draw off goblins, which sort of worked to a degree. One of them just got munched and the other one did sort of draw off a few guys, which is quite handy. But I was quite good with the shooting actually, so I think I must have had about 6 turns of shooting, and in that time I think I killed nearly 20 goblins, and I only needed to kill 32 to break. Basically we got into combat and I sort of put the plan in place, which was sort of hold choke points and just sort of block access to my objective. My guys started to obviously die as well, because in combat obviously Goblin Town's pretty scary because they're still strength 3, so if you lose a combat it's killing me on 5s with anywhere between sort of 2 and 4 dice. So I think I sort of lost like 10 or 12 guys in combat, but I was able in I think probably a couple of turns actually to get the kill tally up to 32, and he broke. Things were pretty ropey, to be honest, still. So I think another bad turn of combat, or another few bad turns of combat, and that would be me done. Because I think Grishnak was holding on by a single wound, and obviously I was losing warriors quicker than I would like. But then the turn he would have to start taking courage tests, I called a heroic. And basically was able to tie up his 2 captains to try and get rid of their stand fast. I couldn't tie up Grinner because he was at the back. But then, quite luckily, I think Grinner got like snake eyes or a 3 or something, and he wasn't able to sort of might and will that up to a save. So basically his leader ran off, which got me the leader kill points as well, which was quite handy. But then I think sort of 15 to 20 goblins obviously just ran off that turn. yeah, and suddenly I had the numbers. I think yes, I was able to keep everyone away from the objective that turn. And I think it ended the first turn it could have ended. So I think Grinner running away basically clinched it, and also me winning the roll off to tie up the two captains. But yeah, with that I won that game, and I only won it 5-0 though because I didn't touch the objective. I just got the leader kill and the broken, sort of the breaking the enemy whilst I was unbroken, and yeah, that was that. So I ended up winning the tournament, which was quite surprising after my last outing at the GP event. But yeah, it was a really fun tournament, and I look forward to hopefully coming back at the next tournament they run in May.